Ben was not kind to me. At first, I did not understand it. I cooked for him. I cleaned the house. I waited for him every day. But he still looked at me like I did something wrong. He did not hit me, but he made me feel small. He made me feel scared. He did not let me speak too much. When I tried to ask something, he said, "Be quiet." When I laughed, he said, "Why are you so loud?" I stopped laughing. I stopped asking. I stopped speaking. We lived in Colorado in a small house, but I did not feel at home. The house was clean. The rooms were quiet. But I was not happy. I was not free. My name is Sophia. I was 30 when I married Ben. He was 35. At first, he was kind. He brought me tea. He smiled at me. He told me he loved me. I believed him. I thought he was a good man. But after the wedding, things changed. Slowly, he told me what to do. He told me what to wear. He told me not to talk to my friends. He told me to stay inside. At first I said, "Okay." I thought it was love. I thought he cared about me. But later, I saw the truth. He did not want to protect me. He wanted to control me. I had no phone. I had no job. I had no money. I could not leave the house without asking him. He said, "You do not need a job. Just stay at home." He said, "I give you food and a house. What more do you want?" But I wanted more. I wanted a life. Every day, I cleaned the same rooms. I made the same food. I sat in the same chair. I waited for Ben. I waited for the sound of the door. When he came home, I stood up fast. I smiled. I said hello. He looked at me and said nothing. He liked the silence. I did not. Sometimes I wanted to tell him a story. I wanted to say how I felt. But when I spoke, he said, "Stop. I don't care." He looked at his phone. He looked at the TV. But he never looked at me. One time, I made him a nice dinner. I worked all day on it. He came home and said, "This is cold. I don't want it." Then he left the table. I sat there, alone, and ate the food myself. I cried while I chewed. I ate every bite. I did not want to waste it. I had a friend before marriage. Her name was Helen. We talked every day. But Ben said, "She is not a good woman." He made me stop calling her. I missed her. But I did not call. I was scared. Sometimes I forgot how my voice sounded. I did not speak for hours. There was no one to talk to. I looked at the wall. I looked at my hands. I sat still like a statue. I was alive, but I did not feel alive. One morning, I opened the window. The sky was blue. I heard people laughing on the street. I heard music from a car. I wanted to cry. They were free. I was not. I closed the window. Ben did not let me go outside alone. He said it was not safe. He said, "You will get lost. You will talk to the wrong people." But I was not a child. I was a woman. Still, I stayed inside. I did not want to make him angry. One day I asked him, "Can I go to the shop?" He said, "No. I already said no." He looked at me like I was stupid. My face felt hot. I looked down. I said nothing more. At night I could not sleep. My heart felt heavy. I looked at the ceiling and asked, "Why am I here? What did I do wrong?" I thought marriage was love. I thought marriage was joy. But in this house, there was no joy, only silence. He did not want me to laugh. He did not want me to ask. He did not want me to live like a person. He wanted me to be quiet. He wanted me to be small, like a shadow. I did not wear nice clothes anymore. I did not brush my hair for long. I stopped looking in the mirror. I did not like what I saw. My eyes looked sad. My mouth stayed closed. I did not know who I was. One night I burned the soup. It was a mistake. He shouted at me. He said, "Can't you do one thing right?" I wanted to scream back, but I stayed quiet. I cleaned the pot. I made new soup. I said sorry. He did not say it's okay. He never did. When I walked in the house, I walked slowly. I did not want to make noise. When I dropped a spoon, I froze. I waited for him to say something mean, but sometimes he said nothing. The silence was worse. Then something small happened. One day he went to visit his uncle. He said, "I will be back in 2 days. He gave me food and said, "Don't go out. Don't open the door." I said, "Okay." He left. I sat on the couch and waited for the night. But that evening, I did something new. I opened the front door. The air was cool. The sky was pink. I stepped outside. I walked to the end of the street. I saw a tree. I touched it. I smelled the air. It felt good. A woman walked past me and said, "Good evening." I smiled. I said, "Good evening." It was only 2 words, but they felt like a song. My heart beat fast. My hands shook. I had not spoken to anyone in a long time. I went back inside. I locked the door. I sat down. I cried, but the tears felt warm. They were not sad tears. They were new. I looked around the room. This was not my home. It was only walls and a roof. I wanted more. I needed more. And for the first time I thought, maybe I can go. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next morning, I woke up early. The house was quiet. I made tea and sat near the window. I looked outside. The street was empty. I saw the tree again. It looked strong. It did not move in the wind. I wanted to be strong too. I looked at the clock. Ben would come home the next day. I had one day alone. I started to think, can I leave? Where can I go? What will happen next? I looked in the kitchen. I found a small bag. I opened it. Inside, there was a coat, an old pair of shoes, and a scarf. I put the things on the table. My hands were cold, but my heart was warm. I felt hope. I went to the bedroom. I opened the drawer. I found a little money. It was not much, but it was enough for a bus. I counted it slowly. Then I looked at the window again. The sky was blue. I said to myself, I will go. I packed my things in the small bag, just clothes and a hairbrush. No pictures, no gifts. I did not want to take anything that made me feel sad. I closed the bag and sat on the bed. My legs felt weak, but I did not stop. I waited until night. The sun went down. The lights on the street turned on. I opened the door and stepped out. I looked back one time. Then I walked away. I walked to the bus stop. I sat on the bench. A few people were there. No one looked at me. I liked that. The bus came after 10 minutes. I got on and gave the driver the money. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "As far as this will take me." He nodded. I sat down near the window. The bus moved slowly. I looked outside. I saw lights, trees, and small houses. My heart was beating fast, but I felt free. I was not scared. I was ready. The bus stopped in a small town. I got off. It was still dark. I did not know the name of the town. I did not care. I looked around. I saw a bench under a tree. I sat down and closed my eyes. I did not sleep, but I rested. In the morning, I saw a shop. I went inside and bought bread and water. The woman at the shop smiled at me. I smiled back. She did not ask me anything. I was happy for that. I walked around the town. It was quiet. There were trees, birds, and people walking with their dogs. I saw a small building with a sign that said Help Center. I walked to the door and knocked. A woman opened the door. She looked kind. She said, "Hello. Do you need help?" I looked at her and said, "Yes, please." She asked me to come inside. We sat at a table. She gave me tea. She said, "What is your name?" I said, "My name is Sophia." She smiled. She said, "It is nice to meet you, Sophia." I felt safe. I told her I had no home. I told her I left my husband. She listened. She did not ask too many questions. She said, "You are brave." I looked down and said nothing. She gave me a small room to stay for a few days. It had a bed and a window. I looked out of the window and smiled. I could see the sky. That night, I slept well for the first time in years. No one shouted. No one was angry. It was just me and the stars. The next day, I went back to the help center. The woman's name was Linda. She said, "Would you like to join a group? We meet on Fridays." I asked, "What do you do there?" She said, "We talk, we listen, we help each other." I said yes. On Friday, I went to the group. There were 4 women. They smiled at me. One woman said, "I like your scarf." I smiled. I said thank you. We sat in a circle. One by one, the women spoke. They talked about their lives. Some left hard homes. Some had no family. Some just wanted a friend. I listened. I did not speak, but I felt warm inside. I was not alone. After the meeting, one woman walked with me. Her name was Hannah. She was tall and had kind eyes. She said, "Do you want to get coffee?" I said yes. We sat at a small cafe. She asked, "What do you want to do now?" I said, "I don't know." She smiled and said, "That's okay. You have time." I looked out the window. I saw people talking, smiling, walking. I said, "I want to work one day. I want to talk to people again." Hannah said, "You can do it. You just took the first step." Every day, I felt a little stronger. I cleaned my room. I walked in the park. I smiled at people. I started to write new words in a small notebook. Easy words, happy words. I wanted to speak more. One day, Linda told me there was a small class nearby. It was for women who wanted to learn new things. I said, "Can I go?" She said, "Yes. I will help you sign up." I went to the class. I sat in the back. The teacher said, "Welcome." She smiled at me. I smiled back. The class was small. Just 10 women. We learned words, questions, and short sentences. We talked in pairs. I was shy at first, but the woman next to me helped me. Her name was Nina. After class, Nina said, "You did well." I said, "Thank you." My voice was soft, but clear. I was happy. I walked home that day and looked at the sky. It was blue and wide. I said to myself, I can do this. I will not be silent again. I still remembered Ben. I still remembered the quiet house. But now, I had new days. I had my own voice. I had my own time. And I was not going back. Weeks passed. I went to class every Tuesday and Thursday. I learned new words. I learned how to ask questions. I learned how to answer them too. Every day I spoke a little more. I looked at people when I talked. I smiled more. One day my teacher gave me a paper. It had a question. It said, "What do you want in life?" I looked at the paper. I held my pen. I thought for a long time. Then I wrote, "I want peace." That was all. Just those 3 words. But I felt proud. Nina sat next to me. She looked at my paper. She smiled. She said, "That is a good dream." I smiled back. I started to walk more around the town. I liked the park. I liked the small lake. There were ducks in the water. I sat on a bench and watched them. One day, a little boy came and fed the ducks. He gave me a piece of bread. I said, "Thank you." He smiled and ran back to his mother. Simple moments made me happy now. At the help center, Linda asked me, "Do you want to try working?" I felt nervous. I said, "I don't know how." She said, "I can help you. We have a job at the local school. It is just cleaning. Just a few hours." I said yes. I started the job the next week. I cleaned the classrooms. I cleaned the floors and windows. It was quiet work, but I felt useful. The other workers were kind. One woman said, "You are doing great." I felt happy inside. After work, I sat on a bench near the school. I ate a sandwich and watched the sky. I thought, this is a good day. I did not have money. I did not have many things, but I had peace. Later, I found a small room to rent. It was not big, but it was clean and quiet. I had a bed, a table, and one window. I looked at the trees outside. I made tea. I sat by the window and read simple books from the class. I was alone, but I was not lonely. One Sunday, I got a letter at the help center. It was from Ben. I did not open it. I did not want to read his words. Linda said, "You don't have to open it." I said, "I know." I put the letter in a box and walked away. I did not want to live in the past. I wanted to live now. One morning, I saw a flyer on a wall. It said, "Join our English reading group." It was for beginners. I took the flyer to class and asked my teacher, "Can I go?" She said yes. At the group, we sat in a circle and read short stories. The teacher asked questions. We answered slowly. I read one page out loud. My hands shook, but I did it. After class, a woman came to me and said, "You read well." I said, "Thank you." Her name was Karen. She was kind. She told me she also lived alone. She said, "Sometimes it is hard, but we are strong." I said, "Yes, we are." We met again at the cafe next to the class. We drank tea and talked. I told her my story. She told me hers. She said, "It's okay to begin again." I said, "I believe that now." We started to walk together after class. Sometimes we went to the park. Sometimes we went to the small library. She helped me find books with easy words. I liked books with pictures. I liked books with happy endings. Life was not easy, but it was better. I had my own key. I had my own room. I had a small job. I had new words. I had a voice. I started to write my name again and again on paper. Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. It felt good. I was learning who I was. At the help center, Linda smiled when she saw me. She said, "You are different now." I said, "I feel different." She said, "You look happy." I said, "I am learning how to be happy." Sometimes I still felt sad. Sometimes I remembered the quiet house. Sometimes I remembered the days I said nothing. But now I had good days too. I had warm tea. I had kind people. I had a life that was mine. One evening, I walked to the lake. The sun was going down. The sky was orange. I sat on the bench and took a deep breath. A bird flew over the water. I watched it. It looked free. I smiled. I said to myself, I was not allowed to speak before, but now I can speak. I can choose. I can live. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.